River. Hare Krishna. Welcome, everyone. Good to be with you here. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachare Shatarine. So today is our last day of the three-part Karttika series, and we're going to be hearing about and from the Gopi Gita, which appears in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. It's in chapter 31. It's the whole chapter, verses 1 through 19. And some say that it extends a few verses into the 32nd chapter. And we're going to also look at that just briefly. And as we heard before, it's one of the Kartik observances that we can do is to repeat the Gopi Gita. So you probably know that Gita means song, and the Gopis, the word Gopis, refers to the women in Krishna's cowherd village known as Vrindavan or Vraja. So this is a song by the young Gopis who are in love with Krishna, not Krishna's elders who are also known as Gopis. Now, of course, we know Bhagavad Gita. We've heard the Gita there, but the Bhagavatam also has several Gitas, and it is this postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. But in the Bhagavatam itself, there are several Gitas, and in the handout that I gave you called the Gitas in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll see there that of the 13 Gitas that are listed, 6 of them are sung by the Gopis. And also what I gave you in the handout area was one of the most famous verses from the Gopi Gita is verse 9. And I provided you an MP3 to listen to that Badahari's recording, a very beautiful melody that MP3 was called Tava Katamritam. So if you haven't listened to that, I would, because it's really, really nice. And if you want, you can open the file that I gave you called the Gopi Gita, which has all the verses that we're going to go over today. We're going to cover a lot of ground, but I want you to know that we're only going to begin to unravel the mystery of the song of the Gopis. I have a friend who gave more than an hour-long class on each of the 19 verses. He was for like 1 month speaking on the Gopi Gita. So just be aware I'm giving you an abbreviated version, but I hope it helps us enter into the mood and appreciate it. So with Damodar Ashtaka, we had an experience about the parental love for Krishna, and to properly understand that that Leela specifically, we heard about the nature of Krishna's transcendental form. So in the Gopi Gita, we're going to hear from Krishna's romantic lovers, and their love is the love of mellow, of conjugal love, known as Madhurya Rasa, and it is considered the highest rasa of Bhakti. So, if we contemplate, we can imagine that in order for God to appear before us as a lover, not as God, will require us to have a very selfless, intense, condensed, and pure love for him. And the Gopis' song gives us a glimpse of that, of the nature of their love. And we're going to hear how they approach with such selfless devotion and humility. For myself, I know it's difficult for us ordinary people to really comprehend Krishna and pure bhakti, especially the mood of conjugal love of God, because our hearts are contaminated, and we tend to naturally relate their love with mundane relationships of men and women in this world, and that is something we really have to be careful not to do. So their love is nothing like romantic love here. Prabhupada says it's as different as the difference between iron and gold. And of course, one reason why we make this mistake is because Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan appear human. They're not human, though. They're human-like. And the like in human-like means that they're fully human and fully divine. So it's human. We can relate to it in a certain level because they appear to be human, but they are completely transcendental. And so one of the things that we always hear is that before we enter the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam has been set up very specifically to carefully guide us to understand Madhurya Rasa, the love of the gopis and Krishna. And before we really hear about their intimate relationships, what we're required to do is read the first 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam, which will give us context by showing Krishna's godhood. We hear about the details of the creation of the cosmos, the history of the devotees, Krishna's expansions and descents, the nature of bhakti, details of the spiritual world. All these topics show us how Krishna is all-powerful and omniscient and omnipresent. So we have to understand Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and understand something of his activities and qualities, form and place, by grounding ourselves in these are completely transcendental. This is nothing mundane about them. And the gopis, they're not ordinary women. They are actually expansions of Krishna's internal energy, or his Swarup Shakti. That's the internal potency that embodies bliss and love. So these gopis, they're Krishna's eternal perfected lovers. And their love, as we'll get a glimpse, it's absolutely free from any selfish desire or interest in personal gain. It's absolutely pristine, a selfless love for Krishna. And they're willing to undergo any suffering and all sacrifice for Krishna's pleasure. They don't expect anything in return. Their sole desire is to please Krishna. So the love between Krishna and the gopis is the ultimate expression of prema, bhakti. It's the pinnacle of devotion, and all devotees look to them as the example of pure devotion in action. So what we're going to hear about today is primarily about their feelings of separation for Krishna. It's described that separation which is in Sanskrit is called vipralamba bhava, is a key emotional component that nurtures and grows love. When there is separation in pure love of God, there is the highest sweetness. So those feelings of separation make the heart grow fonder. The stronger the feelings of separation, the greater intensity of happiness in union. And our acharyas explain that the feelings of separation actually give rise to the highest ecstasy. So the Gopi Gita puts love and separation on display in a most endearing and moving way. Now, this Gita appears right in the middle of the 5 chapters of the Bhagavatam that describe the Rasa Lila, or the circular dance of divine love of Krishna with the gopis. And it is the most revered section of the whole Bhagavatam. It's very, very dear to Krishna Bhaktas, because here we see on display the essence of all rasas. The Rasa Lila is the zenith of every one of Krishna's pastimes. It's considered there is no higher expression of love than what we see in the Rasa Lila. So this celebration of love is the most intimate and aesthetically beautiful of all his pastimes. And as I just described, it displays the highest possible limit of love of God. One of our acharyas, who is a commentator on the Gopi Gita, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, he compares these 5 chapters of the Rasa Lila to the 5 pranas in our body. You know, we have 5 pranas in the body that conduct life. And he says these 5 chapters of the Rasa Lila are the 5 pranas of the Bhagavatam itself. Now, I'll just a quick mention, Rasa Lila, Krishna's Rasa Lila occurred on the first day of Karttika, which is another reason why Karttika is so special. I think I might have mentioned that when we spoke in the first class, but just to be clear, what we're hearing about today occurred on the very first day of the Rasa Lila. So I want to just set up what has happened before we get to the Gopi Gita, so we have perspective of the scene. Now, Krishna, what has happened is Krishna has fallen in love with the gopis, and the gopis have fallen in love with him, but they haven't spoken. They have had loving exchanges, flirtatious glances, and there's been some information shared between the two groups, like you can imagine notes or something. Somehow there's an understanding that they're in love, and Krishna wants to reciprocate their love. So he calls them with his flute. Now, one of the interesting things about Krishna's flute is that the same flute song can say different things to different people. But when the gopis hear the flute, like for instance, I'll give you an example. When he is away in the day from Yashoda, he'll play his flute, and Yashoda will hear that, and she will hear him speaking directly to her. It's all right, I'm coming back. Make me something nice for dinner. She'll get messages. Or if he's with the gopas, he's inviting them to play or to dance, or let's go over here. And the cows also, they hear their names, and they come when they hear their name called with the flute. So Krishna plays the flute. We're in autumn time. It's a full moon night, and Krishna has played his flute to call the gopis. He's decided he wants to reciprocate their love, and he wants them near. So they hear this, and without knowing what any other gopis are doing, they run through this dense forest. And you have to understand, it is forest-like. So here they are, young girls without anyone else, running in the dark of the night, even though it's full moon. You know how it's dark in the forest. And they all come, they all show up, and they say, oh my gosh, you came. They all see each other, they all had come. And so he's asked for their service, and what does he do when they arrive? He teases them, and he says, why have you come here? You better go home. This is not a place for young girls. This is safe. It's not safe in the jungle. Your family is going to be really worried about you. You need to go home. And they were just completely bewildered and crestfallen, and the tears are just wetting their breasts, and they're starting to think, how could he do this? What kind of a person does this? They've left all of their attachments, all of their, broken all conventional rules of society, giving up their honor, leaving everything behind to respond to him. And here they come, overcoming all obstacles, and they place themselves in full surrender. And he says, go back home. This is like a really mind-boggling, bewildering, but I think it's an interesting point for us to pause and think about how their behavior, their exemplary behavior, can inform our own bhakti. To achieve pure bhakti, we really need to gradually develop their kind of determination to overcome all obstacles and fully surrender to Krishna, no matter what the outcome. Even if Krishna says, why are you here? Why are you here? Maybe you should go back. And what we'll see is that they refuse. They just said, absolutely not possible for us. We've given everything, and please accept us. So we too should fearlessly go toward Krishna, leaving everything behind. And in response, we'll be invited into Krishna's dance of divine love, just as the gopis were invited to participate with him. So after joking with the gopis, Krishna begins the rasa dance, the rasa lila begins, but all of a sudden he leaves for two reasons. First, Sri Radha has worshipped him with excellence, and therefore he takes her away to give her special attention. And second, he feels the gopis might have become a little proud. They're in this, there's the special women of all the universe and all the spiritual world. They are able to dance with Krishna. So he decided he would disappear, and by doing that, he would remove their pride and remove any of the competitive spirit that they might have in a rasa dance with the other gopis themselves, so that they could experience the highest bliss. So as soon as he goes, the gopis become absolutely frantic, and they, in their complete madness, as they're searching for Krishna, they're talking to the moving and the non-moving entities. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where is our lover gone? And eventually they come upon Sri Radha, who has now also been abandoned by Krishna. And at first, they were thinking, oh, why is he taking her? And then they started thinking, well, she must have really pleased him the most. And they started appreciating that. And then when they saw her so dejected and so full of separation and sorrow, they tried to appease her. And all of them now, they go together to the bank of the Yamuna, and they sit down. And here is where they sing the Gopi Gita in absolute, utter desperation. And you'll hear their song. They're saying, we could die at any moment. Our separation is so intense. Please come, please come. So a number of the commentators have said, or at least one commentator said, that this song is so confidential that actually only Krishna can factually understand their words. So we should realize, as we hear their words, that there are layers of meaning here that we may not understand today, or the third time or the 10th time we read or pray before we enter and try to understand them. We require mercy to be able to enter into the mystery of their love and feelings. So that mercy is given if we have proper context, if we have proper education, proper grace, and a proper mood. We may be touched and inspired by their glorious example and understand something about the transcendental emotions that they feel. And I before we go, I just wanted to go on. I just wanted to point out that like when I hear this, I just start feeling so much anxiety about the gopis and the intensity of their feelings. And sometimes it's even a little difficult to hear. But so I want to point out a few points. First of all, their feelings are nothing like mundane sorrow or pain. The pain of their separation intensifies their love and attachment to Krishna, which is all they want. And it creates an extraordinary and confidential form of bhakti. So while they're feeling separation, they're constantly remembering Krishna, his form, his qualities, his pastimes. They sing his names, and this brings them joy. In fact, by this hearing and chanting about his names and his qualities, pastimes, they feel his presence. So after separation, there is meeting. There's the ecstasy felt in his association. And that ecstasy in his association reaches higher and higher levels each time there's separation. So there's separation, they're with him, their love increases, their separation, all of these are increasing their love. So prema, or divine love, is a paradox. Some say it's like hot sugarcane juice. It's too sweet to stop drinking, and it's too hot to continue drinking. There's no sweeter experience than being with Krishna, and in separation from him, there's no greater pain, but that also has its own sweetness. So we should also remember that Krishna is only momentarily leaving them, and that he does to increase their love and to showcase to the world the greatness of their love. He wants to shine a very bright light on the love of the gopis and bring us into contact with these highest devotees. Now, the other thing to remember here is, we're going to hear a little bit of repetition, and there's a reason for that. The commentators explain that each verse that is in the Gopi Gita is spoken by a different gopi. It's not the same, or sometimes it's a group of gopis speaking. Certain gopis there's groups of gopis who have certain moods, and they form a friendship. And so each of these verses is spoken by some other gopi or some other group of gopi, and therefore the repetition here is considered an ornament, not a fault. So one of the things that I'm going to share also as we read the verses is that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who I mentioned earlier, his commentary on these verses are very beautiful. He actually has captured conversations that are kind of going on in the background of these verses, where he's saying, well, Krishna is saying this, and the gopis are responding like this, and this is the conversation going on here with this verse. This is the conversation going on between them. So I'm going to share some of them, not all of them, because that would be impossible to cover today, but I will be bringing out some of that sweet writing that he's shared with us. Now, I'd also like you to pay special attention to how the gopis speak to Krishna, although he's not present with them. They can't see him. They are calling out to him. They're begging for his to come. But they don't place a distance between themselves and Krishna. If you notice, you can see they're speaking directly to Krishna. So we might take notice and allow this kind of dialogue in the form of a song to inform and inspire our own prayers and feeling approach to Krishna. So I also want to point out, we're going to read just this one last thing, and then we're going to start reading the verses. So if you want to bring up the Gopi Gita, you can read along with me the verses. But one of the things that's very beautiful is that before the commentators begin their commentary on the Gopi Gita section of the Bhagavatam, almost each one of them begins with a special prayer of great reverence and begging for blessings to be able to speak and to comment on these verses. Now, that's not the case when they're commenting throughout the Bhagavatam. I mean, you'll hear some things like that, but it was noteworthy that most of them had that began commenting on these verses with that mood, and so we can also approach with some reverence and asking for blessings. So let's go to verse 1. You want to join me? The gopis said, "O beloved, your birth in the land of Vraja has made it exceedingly glorious, and thus Indira, the goddess of fortune, always resides here. It is only for your sake that we, your devoted servants, maintain our lives. We have been searching everywhere for you, so please show yourself to us." If you look at the Sanskrit, the first word is Jayati, and Jayati is a request for invoking auspiciousness. So they're beginning their song by invoking blessings. They have a strong desire to achieve their desired goal, and so they're seeking blessings to fulfill that. Now they've searched everywhere. They can't find him. They're sitting on the bank of the Yamuna, hoping that he'll hear them. They're thinking, if we just sing loud enough, maybe he'll hear us. And here we have a truth about Krishna. He must reveal himself to us. We can't tell him he must show up. We can't conceive of him with our minds. There's not any particular endeavor that we're going to be able to do to be able to see or understand Krishna. It's that he will reveal himself when he's pleased with us. So this is also something that's being taught in what we're seeing here with the gopis. Even though they're his most beloved, he's going to come when he's ready. So we can trust the gopis here, because whatever we're going to be hearing from them, because they've actually, although they're spiritually bewildered about Krishna being God, they think he's just the cowherd boy among the cowherd people of our village. They actually have heard about God from the sages, and they're well versed in knowledge about Krishna. It's just that knowledge is covered by their intimacy. They actually know him better than anyone because of their intimate love for him. he's revealed everything to them. So we can trust what they're revealing to us here. And here they say Vraja is more glorious than any planet in the spiritual world. Vaikuntha is wonderful, but Vraja is unexcelled. And by speaking of Krishna's birth, they imply that not only in Vraja do the devotees see the Supreme Person wandering about freely and performing unlimited pastimes, but all the living entities there in Vraja also get this special benediction. And this is not something that you see elsewhere in Vaikuntha. You're not going to see Narayan walking without shoes. He's not going to be playing a flute. He doesn't play a flute. He doesn't play wrestle. He doesn't wrestle with his friends. In Vaikuntha, Narayan doesn't have parents or friends or lovers. He has his wife, Lakshmi Devi, and he sits on a great throne in majesty. But Krishna's particular appearance is special. There, the land is Chintamani, the desire trees, everything about Vraja actually has more majesty than Vaikuntha, but it's hidden within its natural setting. It's said that Krishna is complete in Dwarka, more complete in Mathura, and most complete in Vraja. Or sometimes it's said perfect, more perfect, most perfect in Vraja. And the reason for that is in Vraja, there is an ever-increasing flow of affection. And we should know this is not just poetic statement or hyperbole. Let's think about this. In Vraja, love is ever and always increasing. It's eternally. Prema keeps increasing. It's described how the Gopis express their love for Krishna, and in reciprocation, Krishna expresses his. So they compete with him in that expression of love and increase it, and then he increases it, and then they increase it. And in this way, neither of them accept defeat. And in this exchange of love, it keeps on increasing and increasing. Kind of hard to fathom, but this is the nature of the love in Vraja. And so now they're in this verse, they're also referring to Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. And they're saying, Lakshmi is here serving you, even though everyone in Vaikuntha serves her, she comes here to serve you. So the idea is Vraja is filled with all kinds of opulences and much greater wealth than Vaikuntha, and of course, any other place in the material cosmos. So in this verse, the Gopis are referring to themselves in an indirect manner. They say, those who belong to you are unhappy, and no one in beautiful Vraja should be unhappy. You should see that we're dying without you, so you should come to us. So in this way, in between the lines, the Gopis are saying, do you derive happiness seeing our misery? They want to know, what are you doing here? So let's look at verse 2. O Lord of love, in beauty your glance excels the whirl of the finest, most perfectly formed lotus within the autumn pond. O bestower of benedictions, you are killing the maidservants who have given themselves to you freely without any price. Isn't this murder? So in the Sanskrit, we have the word daita, and the Gopis are saying daita, which means, oh, sweetheart. They're hoping for Krishna's compassion. And they're saying, we're dying here. And beloved, oh, beloved, please, a person who takes the heart and is compassionate, please appear to us. Please show your face to us. And they compare him or his face to the lotus growing in the autumn, because the lotus is it's quite exceptional in its stage of splendor in the autumn, and they compare his glance to that kind of lotus. It's really, we have to understand Krishna's beauty, his form can't be compared to anything, but the poets and the gopis, they're doing the best they can to express what they have experienced, what they witness in his beauty. And Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur writes that the gopis imply, you should be prepared to accept the consequences of killing thousands of women. And that implied meaning is, out of fear of being responsible for this sin, you should show up, please, they say. So verse 3, O greatest of personalities, you have repeatedly saved us from all kinds of danger, from poisoned water, from the terrible man-eater Aga, from the great rains, from the wind demon, from the fiery thunderbolt of Indra, from the bull demon, and from the son of Maya Danava. So the gopis here are hinting at Krishna's protection. Not hinting, they're stating it directly. There are 6 limbs of Sharanagati, or surrender, in Bhakti. And the root limb, or the very central aspect of Sharanagati, is to think of Krishna as one's protector. To have full faith that Krishna will protect us reflects a deep trust in his shelter. And without this conviction, we would lack the conviction to overcome the trials of material existence and the obstacles that we inevitably encounter in our sadhana. And the gopis are reminding us of this. Krishna is trustworthy. He will protect us. So they're in this feeling of love that's coming up. They're saying, we were protected and you are expert in giving protection to everyone. So they have full faith in his protection, and they're not looking to anyone else for that protection or their shelter. They're coming to him alone, even though he's not showing himself and he's being difficult. They're not going anywhere else. So now, there's interesting about this verse also. They want to overcome their obstacle of separation from Krishna. And they're speaking about how Krishna has protected them and all the residents of Vrindavan from the various demons. And what is interesting here is Bhaktivinoda Thakur has told us that these demons in Krishna Lila represent different impurities in our hearts that must be destroyed. We must observe the impurities of our hearts, the false values that remain there, and remove them. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that the most efficacious way to do that is by chanting Krishna's holy names. Ultimately, when we look at what we're faced with, our only real enemy is a mind that's out of control. And I've given you also in the handouts, there is a handout called Demons in the Leela and False Values. And you can look at that for seeing what the demons represent, and that'll give you some hint about where our work lies. So the gopis say, you've saved us in the past. Why do you want to kill us now? It makes no sense to them, and they're trying to reason with him. But it's really important for us to understand that the gopis are not asking Krishna to appear for their sake. They know him intimately, and they know that he also feels separation from them. So they ask him to appear so they can render direct service to make him happy, because they know that they can make him happy. He's expressed that. They're very well aware of his psychology and his nature. And you'll see as their song progresses that the emotion intensifies more and more, how that selfless service they want to render to Krishna, and that pure, that pristine love that they will do anything for his happiness. This we'll see that all the way through the Gopi Gita, and then what happens? Krishna is forced to appear. And they say, if you don't behold us right now, your eyes won't reach success. They're beautiful young girls and they want to offer themselves. And they said, we know you'll probably die and then we'll die. So they want to save him from that. It's interesting psychology. So verse 4, you're not actually the son of the Gopi Yashoda, O friend, but rather the indwelling witness in the hearts of all embodied souls. Because Lord Brahma prayed for you to come and protect the universe, you have now appeared in the Satvata dynasty. They say, you don't only exist outwardly, you exist inwardly. So you know our hearts, you know us. And since you know everything, we can't understand why you're hiding. And then they try a new tactic and they say, hey, spoil sport. This is from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. You can't be the son of Yashoda because her heart melts at even the slightest distress of another. So not possible for you to be the son of Yashoda because she's soft-hearted and you're acting in a very hard-hearted way. So in this verse, they call him our Saka, our friend, not just a lover, but our friend. And then it's kind of like they're wondering, are you our friend? Are you Paramatma, like the detached witness, or are you our dearmost friend? So they're like taunting Krishna, they're joking with him here. But then in the same moment, oh, Krishna might be displeased with us. So then they start glorifying Krishna. You can see this quandary that they're living in separation. So then it's kind of like they say here, well, we've been talking in the way a friend talks with another friend. So as a friend, you protect the whole universe. So please protect us because we're residents of the universe too. Verse 5, O best of the Vrishnis, your lotus-like hand, which holds the hand of the goddess of fortune, grants fearlessness to those who approach your feet out of fear of material existence. O lover, please place that wish-fulfilling lotus hand on our heads. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the gopis imagine Krishna saying, O affectionate speakers, I disappeared only to drink the nectar of your words of loving anger. Now that I have fulfilled that desire, you can choose your boon. So in thinking that Krishna is talking to them like this, offering a boon, they're now asking for boons. And first, in fact, now we're going to have verses 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're going to be asking for his boons. And in this first one, please place your hand on her head, which bestows fearlessness and fulfills all desires. In other words, Krishna's touch gives liberation and ends samsara. And his hand is like a cooling lotus. It will dispel the heat of their affliction, and the fear of separation from him will be dispelled. Now in verse 6, they're asking for the second boon, since they feel that he's asked them what boons they want. O you who destroy the suffering of Braja's people, O hero of all women, your smile shatters the false pride of your devotees. Please, dear friend, accept us as your maidservants and show us your beautiful lotus face. They say, please show us your beautiful face. And that face, Krishna is always smiling. And that smile is like a kunda flower. It's like he has pearls of jasmine buds for teeth. And that smile, it destroys the darkness in the hearts of his devotees, and it dries the ocean of their tears. So in this way, they're requesting him, please come near. And Vishwanath says, then Krishna will say, aren't you afraid to give me orders? And they say, no, we know you enjoy that, actually. And if you carry our orders out and appear, we can make you happy. So then Vishwanath says, so he agrees to become their servant and says, tell me, what should I do? And they say, please show us your beautiful face. And in this verse now, the gopis speak about pride. And as we've heard before, Krishna does not tolerate pride in his devotees because it inhibits love. So he'll always work to remove pride from our heart. And anyone who's practiced Bhakti a little while knows special attention we get when pride gets in the way, and we are humbled by the mercy of Krishna to show us where there is contamination in the heart. So the gopis are thinking now he's left us because we were prideful. But actually, and it does state that in one sense, that Krishna left because to control their pride. But actually, the gopis are not contaminated by pride. This is just Leela instructing us here. And it's very important instruction. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that we're to develop humility and tolerance and respect for everyone without desiring any honor for ourselves. And if we can be successful, then we'll be able to chant the holy names constantly. So that's another way of saying that pride keeps us from the goal of always remembering Krishna. So we need to be attentive to this fault. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti says, thinking another way, the gopis say, pride is dispelled by your smile, not by abandoning us. Enough of remaining hidden for that purpose, they say. So verse 7 and 8, 2 more boons. Your lotus feet destroy the past sins of all embodied souls who surrender to them. Those feet follow after the cows in the pastures and are the eternal abode of the goddess of fortune. Since you once put those feet on the hoods of the great serpent Kaliya, please place them upon our breasts and tear away the lust in our hearts. O lotus-eyed one, your sweet voice and charming words, which attract the minds of the intelligent, are bewildering us more and more. O dear hero, please revive your maid servants with the nectar of your lips. So here the gopis want to place his feet in their hearts and give them solace. If he can put his feet, they say, on sinful Kaliya, surely he could place his feet on their hearts. And they say, revive us with the nectar of your lips, which is characterized by your sweet talk. Krishna's voice is full of love. And it's described that it's sweetened with his honey smile and sugary jokes and spiced with the camphor of metaphor and alliteration and other literary ornaments. And each of his words and sentences, they have multiple meanings. And with his sweet talk, he's always bewildering the gopis. And should we ever have the good fortune of hearing Krishna talking, we will also become bewildered by that enchanting rumble, the deep voice that he has, so full of meaning. So here they're remembering him and they're saying, they're remembering him telling them, oh gopis, you're dearer than my own life. I can't ever be indifferent to you. In other words, they're saying, none of what we asked for in terms of a boon so far will be relishable if you don't speak up. So we want to hear what you have to say. Now, in the next verse, the gopis are going to show the power of Harikatha, Sankirtan, or speaking about Krishna and chanting his name. So this is the verse that I gave you the MP3 of. 9. The nectar of your words, the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in the material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. And they're saying here basically that those who hear about Krishna cheat death. Death cheats all of us, everyone, but Harikatha, or topics about Krishna, cheat death because they award immortality. So therefore, Katha is nectar as a sadhana. For a Katha is the nectar of a sadhana, a goal for a practice. It takes away the hunger and thirst and awareness of our material desires, and it provides strength and nourishment. And not only is it a nectar for sadhana, but also for the goal, because it's Harikatha is a sweetness that even the gopis are relishing. So now, thinking that their four requests were asking a lot of Krishna, they now resort to begging Krishna for the nectar of topics. They only want to hear about Krishna, and they're absorbing themselves in katha about Krishna, which really is the wealth of prema. It's the immortal nectar of the spiritual world, topics of Krishna. So in verse 10, in 3 verses, this is where the gopis are going to lovingly find fault with Krishna. So we're going to read those 3 verses together. 10, your smiles, your sweet, loving glances, the intimate pastimes and confidential talks we enjoyed with you, all these are auspicious to meditate upon, and they touch our hearts. But at the same time, O deceiver, they very much agitate our minds. 11, dear master, dear lover, when you leave the cowherd village to herd the cows, our minds are disturbed with the thought that your feet, more beautiful than a lotus, will be pricked by the spiked husks of grain and the rough grass and plants. 12. At the end of the day, you repeatedly show us your lotus face covered with dark blue locks of hair and thickly powdered with dust. Thus, O hero, you arouse lusty desires in our minds. The gopis can't forget Krishna because their hearts have been completely captured by his sweet smile, his love-filled glances, their intimate exchanges, and their joking conversations. And now those same sweetnesses are giving them intense sorrow in his absence. We heard that separation is sometimes compared to the hot sugarcane juice. And there's another way it's compared, that the experience of separation after being with Krishna is like a huge thunderbolt in the deep dark night. You know how a sudden thunderbolt, it like shines everywhere. It shows everything brilliantly. And then the next second, when it's gone, it becomes blindingly dark. So in his commentary to a verse of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami talks a little bit about the ecstasy of separation. He says it's not miserable as it seems to outsiders. It is manorama, the cause of full satisfaction for the heart. If someone still asks how one can feel happy within misery, he should know that only the rasikas, those who have spontaneous eagerness to taste this prema, can understand it. In other words, we'll have to wait for our bhakti to mature to really understand what this means. And they have this idea, they're talking about, we're worried about your feet getting pained in the forest. So they want him to stop wandering in the woods and come quickly for them. And they said, stop wandering, come here. Now, 13 and 14 are somewhat of a repetition to verse 7 and 8, although there's a little added emotional intensity. And as we know, it's because there's different gopis speaking. So 13, your lotus feet, which are worshipped by Lord Brahma, fulfill the desires of all who bow down to them. They are the ornament of the earth. They give the highest satisfaction. And in times of danger, they are the appropriate object of meditation. O lover, O destroyer of anxiety, please place those lotus feet upon our breasts. O hero, kindly distribute to us the nectar of your lips, which enhances conjugal pleasure and vanquishes grief. That nectar is thoroughly relished by your vibrating flute and makes people forget any other attachment. When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its ornament of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by the foolish Creator. This always astonishes me, it's amazing that the gopis cannot tolerate separation from Krishna that is caused by involuntarily blinking their eyes. And by saying this, well, first of all, the commentators explain, when an eye blinks, it's fractions of a second. It's very fast. I mean, how many of us even recognize when we're blinking our eyes for the most part? Well, when the gopis are looking at Krishna, if their eyes blink, they know, and it feels like a millennium to them, they say. And by this, they're letting him know this is the extent of our pain and separation, that a fraction of a second feels like millenniums. And we want to see you all the time uninterruptedly. What to speak of now? You're remaining absent for so long. Please come. So if, in other words, like if Krishna says, well, can I delay a little bit? This is their reply. No, we can't tolerate a fraction of a second in separation. This is the Gopi's psychology. So we can only imagine what it must mean to see Krishna and what it must mean to stop seeing Krishna. 16, dear Achyuta, you know very well why we have come here. Who but a cheater like you would abandon young women who come to see him in the middle of the night, enchanted by the loud song of his flute? Just to see you, we have completely rejected our husbands, children, ancestors, brothers, and other relatives. In other words, they're saying, Krishna, what you've done is really quite improper. We've dedicated everything to you. We've responded selflessly to your call. We heard your flute say, please come as quickly as possible and save my life. I'm feeling separation from you. And there they come, and there you are, you're ungrateful, and you give us up. This is cheating. 17, our minds are repeatedly bewildered as we think of the intimate conversations we had with you in secret. Feel the rise of lust in our hearts and remember your smiling face, your loving glances, and your broad chest, the resting place of the goddess of fortune. Thus we experience the most severe hankering for you. 18, O beloved, your all-auspicious appearance vanquishes the distress of those living in Braja's forests. Our minds long for your association. Please give to us just a bit of that medicine which counteracts the disease in your devotees' hearts. So the request here is just give us a little something. We know that what we're asking for, what we're begging for, is very hard to obtain. So perhaps you could just give us just a little bit of what we're asking for. Now it's described that this last verse, 19, here the gopis are crying. They're tearfully speaking. They say, "Oh, dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about the forest path." So here the gopis now, in thinking of the possible pain that Krishna is feeling, they lose all interest in their requests, and they're showing their intense prema for him, just praying for his happiness. And, oh, you're our soul, you are everything, you are our life. In the beginning, the middle, here at the end, over and over, the gopis offer their lives to Krishna. Basically, as we're going to see further also, is their lives they don't belong to them, they belong to Krishna fully. So it's fitting that he should give himself to them. And it should be understood that the Lord feels the same separation from them and thinks, these girls only have pure love for me. So this is the end of chapter 31, the Gopi Gita. But as I mentioned in the beginning, many commentators say that actually the Gopi Gita continues into the first few texts in chapter 32. And it's important, I think, to wrap up just looking at them really briefly, because Krishna appears before the gopis and he's smiling. And you know what he also is? He's a little embarrassed, and he's like feeling a bit embarrassed, quite shy. So he comes into their presence, he's smiling, he wants to give relief to his suffering gopis. And he's also smiling because he's embarrassed and he wants to mitigate these so-called faults that appear to be real, which we'll see shortly are no faults at all. But let's just take a moment. We could just think, here are the gopis suffering intense separation. Krishna appears before them. What kind of emotional reaction they feel when he reappears. So when they see him, their eyes open wide, and this indicates, of course, their love. And he looks at each one of them. He gives them each one a full glance. So in this scene where he's come back and he's surrounded by all his lovers, by all his Shaktis, Bhagavatam says Krishna appears very, very beautiful at this point. And the Bhagavatam then it reminds us we're not looking at an ordinary scene here. We're looking at the Supreme Person known as Shaktiman, who possesses all energies, surrounded by all his energies. And Krishna is wearing the garland of forest flowers that Radha had given him. So he's coming into their presence, acknowledging Radha's high position, and by that also letting everyone know that he was not leaving them. It was here his way of saying, I keep you eternally right here in my heart. You're always right here. So they sit comfortable, they lay shawls down on the bank and they sit Krishna down. They welcome him in different ways, but they're still a bit angry. And it's described how different gopis are having different reactions. And one gopi in particular is biting her lip, and she's staring at him with some frowning eyebrows. She wants to like wound him with her harsh glances. She's a little upset with him. So her crooked, anger there, it's described that it arises from her madhu neha, or honey-like affection. It's her affection is honey-like, but this is how it's being expressed. Now the acharyas tell us this is Radha. Radha is bold. She's a good friend of Krishna, and she completely brings him under control with those crooked eyebrow glances. And it's described that Radha is a left-wing moody gopi. She's it's called a Vama type of gopi. So one commentator says that she wanted Krishna to understand this. Hey, expert deceiver, you gave me the poison of your love. It had its full effect. My life force almost left my body. Are you approaching me to finish me off? You have acquired quite a reputation. Then all together, the gopis decide to ask Krishna a question in a form of a riddle. This is in verse 16 of chapter 32. And by the way, I would suggest you read into 32 sometime during Karttika. They say, some people reciprocate the affection of only those who are affectionate toward them. Others show affection even to those who are indifferent or inimical, and yet others will not show affection toward anyone. So they wanted to know, they were asking Krishna, which type of lover are you? They're very confused by his behavior. So Krishna says, I'm none of those. And then in verse 20, chapter 32, he says, now this is an important verse because it pertains not just to the gopis, but to us as well. So let's listen with attention. The reason I do not immediately reciprocate the affection of living beings, even when they worship me, O Gopis, is that I want to intensify their loving devotion. They then become like a poor man who has gained some wealth and then lost it, and who thus become so anxious about it that they can think of nothing else. So Krishna, Krishna is quite expert. And the goal of our life is love of Krishna. The goal of his life is to have us love him and reciprocate. And he knows how to draw that from us. And many times it is hiding from us so that we become a bit wild, as we progress in our sadhana and the heart becomes pure. The intensity of our feelings for Krishna increase and increase. This is called love growing. And he's trying to bring that out of us so that we can come to be with him. And then Krishna, he goes on and he says, I always respond, but sometimes not immediately. The effect of my apparent absence will intensify your love. I only wish this for everyone. So as we know, love is the topmost currency, and that's exactly what Krishna says and gives. He says, even when I removed myself from your sight by suddenly disappearing, I never stopped loving you. Therefore, my beloved Gopis, please do not harbor any bad feelings toward me, your beloved. In other words, Krishna is saying, I was right there next to you. I was with you all the time. You couldn't see me, but I heard everything you said. And I relished all of your loving expressions. And I know that you are rebuking me or were rebuking me, calling me ungrateful. But I know the intent of your heart, and I'm hearing the intent in your heart. And then what does Krishna do? In great humility, he begs their forgiveness. Now, for the Gopis, hearing Krishna's real intention and love for them, they became free of the anxiety that Krishna is going to disappear. Now they've got his full assurance. He is theirs. He belongs to them. They belong to him. And so now they reach out to Krishna and they lovingly touch him. And in this way, great joy and intensified love and purification of any feelings, any residual feelings that could interfere with the rasa dance, they go back into the rasa dance. And here, at this very moment, when they're about to go back into the rasa dance, we come to the absolute summit of the entire Bhagavatam. This is the highest point of Krishna Lila, where the Rasa Lila now begins in earnest after this feelings of separation. Krishna acknowledges the Gopis' love is the highest and most confidential form of devotion. And now in verse 22 of chapter 32, he says this, I am not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. But we should really understand what Krishna is saying here. Brahma's lifespan is 311 trillion years. So basically he's saying, I am eternally indebted to you. And this is a very historical, emotional moment in the life of the sweet absolute, because here Krishna accepts complete defeat. In the face of the gopis' pure love, he realizes he actually cannot properly reciprocate with them, which is a problem for him, because in the Gita, he said, I reciprocate according to everyone's love. But now he finds himself a debtor and actually unable to reciprocate. So in this moment, he realizes that above himself, is absolute love. And this moment in Krishna Lila, Gaudiyas see as the genesis of Gaura Lila, or the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this moment, when Krishna understands fully the exalted love of the gopis, he has witnessed it, even though hiding. And he wants to repay this debt that he's incurred. And he thinks, I am going to come back into the world as Sri Chaitanya to bring attention to the whole world's attention to the gopis' love, and I'm going to make devotees for my gopis. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he shows the way to attain service and association of Krishna and his devotees through chanting the holy names of Krishna. Here it is, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra offers the greatest wealth and the possibility of the highest attainment in transcendence. And we've also heard in the last couple of classes that Radha is pleased upon hearing the glorification of her beloved, and therefore she takes us into her service. And so sometimes I think, by chanting the Mahamantra, I am responding to Sri Chaitanya's desire to make devotees for Radha and the gopis. So he will help us because he has a personal vested interest in seeing that we're successful. He wants to bring us to serve the gopis, his beloved gopis. So just wrapping up and ready for questions, I just thought, let's just pause to consider for a moment Krishna's purpose and how he acts for our benefit. He knows how to act, when to appear, when to disappear, and how to reciprocate in a way that will deepen our love and thus our ecstatic experience. And gradually, we'll learn to trust that more and more as we see the ways we progress with a bhakti practice of regular hearing and chanting about Krishna. So, yeah, ultimately in this practice, we want to express our own growing love from the deepest core of our heart, saying, Krishna, you are my life, you are my all in all. And Krishna reveals himself when he is pleased. And while we're waiting for him to appear, if we engage in kirtan and harikatha, our feelings of separation that will continue to grow can be somewhat mitigated. So path is actually so simple and the goal so exalted that all we have to do is simply begin hearing regularly about Krishna, gradually get to know him, his psychology, his qualities, and his leelas, and then our attraction will develop more and more. So yeah, let's not be attached to a particular way that Krishna will respond to us. He will respond as he responded to the gopis, and he responds to all of his devotees. I'm just going to read a final verse that we can end our reflection on this verse. It's very beautiful. The meekness of devotees is the sole cause of achieving Hari's satisfaction. And once he is satisfied, he ends all difficulties everywhere. Therefore, to improve one's spiritual discipline, he made statements to expound the logical reasoning of bhakti. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. So I'm going to change the view to gallery. Hare Krishna, good to see you all. Does anyone have any questions? Aula and Party. Good to see you. It's been a long time since I saw you. Looks like you're really contemplating, Reverend Carla.
I've been following the text on the computer and listening and looking at the verses, and the Sanskrit alone throughout my associating with ISKCON and this temple and that, different environments, I always took shelter in, I mean, it's our saying of taking shelter, but it's a kind of solace that I don't have to comprehend everything with my mind. I can listen to the Sanskrit,
Mhm.
which is why I appreciated Garuda Prabhu with his when he came out with his Bhagavad Gita. He did a lot of presentations and a lot of
Mhm.
um, engaging listeners in just the beauty of the language. And I
Mhm.
feel like it does speak to the whole energy
Mhm.
of the person.
Mhm.
Um, so often I would take a chunk of text, like I love also the conversation, the song to the bumblebee, right?
Yeah.
It's down the
Mhm.
line, and that one I practically memorized because of
Mhm.
just the language, the
Mhm.
marvel of using the words. And you can just feel it that there's meaning behind meaning, and just the sound of it. It's
Interesting.
so juicy. And
Mhm.
and so yeah, I completely admit I'm like, for me that's the nectar because I don't know, I can't reach the what the verse is talking about, that feeling of nectar. It's
Mhm.
beyond me. But the listening of the language, it's right in there. It's like when we listen to a piece of music,
Mhm.
um, or an amazing composition of song, words and music, and it just, engages the emotions. So I'm trying to enter through that instead of overwork it with the
Yeah.
note.
Beautiful. Yeah, Prabhupada said that even if you don't understand the Sanskrit, it has a purifying potency all to its own. And then when I was writing the book Prema Kirtan, I was doing different research, and I found one study where the I think it was Maharishi Yogi's group was studying the effect of Sanskrit compared to other languages on the human ecology, the body ecology. And there was like provable difference between someone saying a Sanskrit mantra or saying something in French or Spanish, or even if they said they didn't know any of the languages, right? But they would say words in the different languages, including Sanskrit. And there was a clear, no, they noticed something with Sanskrit. So I thought that was interesting also. But Prabhupada always encouraged us to say the Sanskrit out loud, to read the Sanskrit, even if we don't understand. And wow, should you learn Sanskrit, then you can read the commentaries and the text directly, right? I really feel like I did not use my youth well, not learning Sanskrit in Bengali so that I could read the source text. Hare Krishna. Dylan. Okay, I know Siona, but I don't know Dylan. And Jahil. I don't know. Jalil. Jalil. Hare Krishna, nice to meet you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's hard, to get four people in one camera, one camera view.
Can I ask a question or just offer
Yeah.
a little
Yes,
reflection?
please, please. Any comments?
So, I just was reflecting, and I've thought about this before in reading these pastimes, but hearing you share it, how uh, basically like the Rasa Leela and the experience of the gopis feeling Krishna's separation, wondering why Krishna has, forsaken them, is simultaneously it's the topmost, you know, exchange of love and very confidential, and at the same time so relatable
Mhm,
at every stage.
mhm,
Like even in my work as a chaplain, like with individuals who know nothing about, Bhakti or, Krishna's pastimes, this theme is so prevalent that it's like, why, where is God in my life? And I'm seeking God. And um, even in like Jesus's life, there's like why have you forsaken me? There's like a verse there where right at the end, before the crucifixion, basically, he's experiencing this. So I guess I'm just sharing that as a reflection, like that I think it's so amazing. There's kind of like this simultaneous, confidential thing and also super accessible and relatable,
Mhm.
and instructive. And then also I just wonder, like, what would you say are there differences, like the gopis sort of yearning and like um feelings of separation versus like an ordinary conditioned soul who's still entangled in the material world.
Are you saying the separation that one feels when one's still conditioned as opposed to the separation that gopis feel? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, yeah, like if you could share if yeah, just any differences, because there is a sense of, even for a conditioned soul who has some faith in God, there will be a sense of, where are you? Please help me,
Right,
the gopis, it seems like it's just completely pure.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think there's two aspects to what you're asking. It could be like, it could be a Gaudiya or non-Gaudiya who's asking that question, where is God and how do I find you, right? So I think and then there's the Gaudiya's perspective of, we're trying to cultivate love of God. And as we do, and we're engaged in the process and it's going on, hopefully, and what I experience happens is that we start really feeling separation from Krishna, like I need you. I need you. And of course, we're told we shouldn't have any desire to um, see Krishna or be liberated. But Sanatana Goswami says actually we do want to see Krishna, and the only way that's possible is through cultivating the chanting of the Maha Mantra. But so talking about a Gaudiya's growing feelings of separation compared to the gopis, I would say that yes, it's not as pure and the intensity is not as deep. I mean, that's what we're actually doing. And we are separated from Krishna. That's our condition. We are separate. I mean, Krishna's in our heart. There's different ways you can look at the philosophy, but we're separated from Krishna. And the more that we realize that, and the more we feel that, love starts developing. Because there's a need, right? And we want to exchange with Krishna. And so it's an engagement. This feeling of separation is an engagement and increases. So I think that the beginning stages for a sadhaka are similar to the gopis because it's beginning to find its foundation in real spiritual feelings. It's not quite there yet, probably materially conditioned, mixed emotions, not pure spiritual emotions, but it's part of the purification of the emotion becoming spiritualized to say, I am separated from Krishna and I do not want to be separated anymore. What does it take not to be separated? And just my experience in practicing bhakti for these years, the feelings of separation increase and increase. They increase regularly. Now it's like getting intense. I don't want to be separated from my Lord anymore. As you develop, you get to know Krishna and you develop a relationship with him. And then, of course, it seems like a bigger topic also to speak of non-Gaudiyas who are thinking, where is God and how do I connect with him? That's a more broad-based, right? If you kind of like leave the Gaudiya tradition and then you say, how does that relate to the gopis? Well, ultimately, it's the same thing because it's a hankering for God, and maybe they're not feeling separation. Maybe they're actually angry, like, where's God? I'm dying, or I'm suffering, or there's this problem, that problem, and why isn't God showing up for me? So, as a chaplain and Carla as a Reverend, I'm sure you have a lot to say about that, but I would say that from our perspective, at least we have the text which show us that even in the darkness and even when we can't see Krishna, he is there. And we need to begin to trust that more and more and act on that. And it will be revealed to us just exactly how he is. So many things have happened in life where, we just don't know why things are happening the way they are, or why I'm suffering the way I am. And then it'll become clear. And it's always for purification. I can tell you it's always to bring us closer if we take it properly. If we accept it with humility and relate to it with an understanding that Krishna is loving, he's a loving God, and he is acting for us to come closer to him. And there's something that needs to occur in me, in my life, in order to make that happen. So, yeah, I think that you're bringing up a lot of different points that could be made. But Carla, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, and it really got me thinking, at some point in our life, we'll collect enough experience to feel separation with the person, even with the place, even people when they have beloved pets. And so there are a variety of our own human psychology about separation that we can experience, and grief comes in, the topic of grief. So I started thinking, well, I know I have beloved friends who lost their significant other. They lost the love of their life because they died, and they go into grief. And the biggest pain and hurdle naturally that they have as a human is that they are lonely and abandoned, that they feel crushed. Whereas if they met, if we walk through life and actually met one of the manifestations of the divine, if we could travel in time and be with Lord Chaitanya, just be on the road as the companies traveling, and just feel that attraction and that nectar of the love, we would not feel separation in the human sense of I am crushed, I am abandoned, I am empty, but that pull, that magnetic pull of I need to be loving you. I need to be offering myself to you, serving, worshiping, all these words put together. And it's a different feeling because it's not about this, it's not about the self, it's about that the ruchi, it's about the sweetness. So it's not about lack or deprivation in our human sense. It's hard to use words and comprehend this stuff, but it just occurred to me how much we're naturally misunderstanding the pastime with the gopis when we look through our psychology of separation. And the closest I feel that we come to that mood, and Prabhupada mentioned that that's like the perfection in human terms is the mother and child or parent and child relationship. If you take a child away from the primary parent, whoever is the mother, sometimes a single father is the mother. But if you separate, then that mother's longing is not because, well, great, now I'm a mother without a child, and it just doesn't work. But it's are they okay, right? It's about nursing and taking care of it's all about the child and not this. And so that's where my thoughts went, and I felt like it's valid to share that. Um, and yeah, that it's a which feeling are we talking about? Because
Mhm.
technically we could be separated in life, and yet what's happening there with the person? Like, what is their grief? What is could be anger. Some people are angry when they're grieving, but this here is different. This doesn't exist in that longing. In that longing's only Krishna, only the beloved.
Focus, focus, yeah, focus.
Anyway, I tried.
Thank you, Carla. Yeah, and I was thinking, that you say how it's so relatable, and it is relatable. That's one of the charming things about Krishna and Krishna Lila and his devotees, is because, like I said, it's human-like, it's fully human, fully divine, but it's so human-like that we can relate to it on all aspects. And in that way, seeing this intimate possibility of a relationship with God, um, it becomes like possible. We see the possibility, the reality. Like, yeah, I've experienced like this. I've experienced this kind of affection, or this wrestling with a friend, or walking in nature and marveling at the beauty and just things that Krishna does. We can relate to it. God becomes very relatable. Krishna is very relatable. It's so attractive. And his relatability is an invitation for us. Yes, God is not distant. He's our best friend, can be our lover. And that's all possible. And we're seeing it play out in the pages of the Bhagavatam. Yeah.
Is it all right to share something a little personal? In my history of traveling from coming from Poland and then traveling here to US and immigrating, I did experience separation from my children. And after that happened, and it is akin to death, and it is akin to I can't breathe because they were fairly young. And they didn't perish or anything, but that was the situation, that they were the other parent. And there was a lot of turmoil and a lot of unjust, it was an unjust situation. It was hurtful situation for everyone. So big pain and turmoil, and nobody planned it. But that's what happened. And we had a workshop. This was afterwards, I'm in New Vrindavan, and we had a workshop that was beautiful. And this was about having a personal relationship with Krishna. So we would sit with an empty chair across and imagining that there's Krishna sitting in the empty chair and we can talk to him. And of course, it's like, okay, I'll play along. I don't know what's gonna happen. We're just human beings here, so I don't have that to really connect and have a relationship with Krishna here in the empty chair. But what came out was this huge sob, just like, Krishna, that was not supposed to happen. What did you do to me? And truly, not to dismiss anybody's life circumstances that can be incredibly painful, but I started seeing that, or at least there was like a glimpse of like balm for the heart, was that every single suffering that I can look in my life that came into my life, if I see it as loving exchange with Krishna, it is, yes, this is how hard I can push you. And you're not gonna break, you're gonna break free, you're gonna break into more love, you're gonna break into more um soul. And that was like a, hardcore. That was like a love boot camp of life.
Mhm.
But the moment I connected Krishna to it, the healing started.
Interesting. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you, Carl. Is that all right, Vinod? Anything else you want to bring up?
Yeah, no, that was great. I just, like I said, it's a topic I think of often when I hear the pastime, and um, yeah, I just appreciated hearing everyone's reflections.
Mm. Thank you. We have come to the end of our time together. Is it quick because we really are over time?
Yeah, it's just really very quick. I just realized because of the time change, I missed the class. That's why I came
Oh, well,
late.
actually, for us, time change is next Sunday.
Yeah, ours is today. So that's
Ah,
why I when I heard you speaking and then you're like question time, I was like, oh. So I guess I just wanted to end on I am going to be in separation, waiting for the class to go on YouTube. I'm gonna be like, oh, what I'm doing.
okay. Well, we'll get you the link soon. Yeah,
Thank you.
next week we have a time change. I don't know how it works out for you in the UK, but pay attention because
Yes,
next week is
today.
ours.
Today we moved forward one, so that's why I apologize. I was a little late, but maybe we can end on that point that sometimes,
Okay.
yeah, even in our
It's
relationships.
good to feel separation from Hari Katha and the devotees. That's a good thing.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
Thank you for letting me.
Hare Krishna, Tulsi Sundar. Okay, Will, thank you for attending these classes on the Kartik, and I hope that it was somehow inspiring in some way for each of you. And let's stay in touch. Okay, Hare Krishna, be well. Have a lovely Kartik.